Ebola? Our southern border? Think they aren't connected? Well, one of our top military leaders saying, think again. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto. And General John Kelly, head of our Southern Command, sounding the alarm this week on a potentially alarming situation.
If Ebola breaks out in Haiti or in Central America, I think it is literally Katie bar the door in terms of the mass migration of Central Americans into the United States. So these populations will move to either run away from Ebola, or if they have been, or in the fear of having been infected, to get to the United States will be taken care of.
So maybe if he's worried about the border, we should start securing the border? To Ben Stein, Dagan McDowell, Gary Kaltbaum, Adam Lusinski's though with us, and Charlie Gasparino. Gary K., how about this novel idea of securing the border?
The number one function of the government, Charles, is to protect and defend the country, its borders, and its people, and the job is just not getting done. Look, just in the last year, tens of thousands of men, women, and children have crossed the Rio Grande untouched into Border Patrol stations, and they're welcomed here. It staggers the imagination what would happen if this disease crosses, and I got to tell you, when the head of the Southern Command says something about it, somebody better listen, and I'm not hearing a lot of people listening.
And you know, it wasn't just him. Ben, earlier this week on Your World, we had Chris Cabrera, a border agent, and he was asked about security at the border and how prepared we are. I want you to take a listen to what he had to say.
You know, actually nothing has. We caught an individual last night from East Africa, which obviously is not from the zone where it's concentrated, but there is still some type of threat there, and you know the quarantine area that was set up is just consisted of 4 traffic cones and some yellow caution tape, and for them they thought, Border Patrol management thought that was sufficient.
All right, Ben, someone may have Ebola or whatever, and they set up 4 traffic cones and yellow tape. How good you feeling about that security measure?
Well, the chance of contracting Ebola at this point is very small. It's like the chance of winning the lottery. But as more and more people get Ebola, and as more and more of them flee, and as more and more of them wind up in Central America, if that happens, big if, the possibilities for disaster in America are endless. I just have never understood why the U.S., a country with an astonishing amount of money, even if it's printed, cannot spend the money to secure the borders. What is stopping us from doing it? There's no harm that can come of it. It's only good. Why don't we secure our borders? And this is just one more big reason.
Dagan, 4 traffic cones and yellow tape.
Hey, at least they flagged the individual, though.
Well, yeah, I guess we give them a half check mark on that, but that's not necessarily giving the rest of the story's not giving me the warm and fuzzy.
Secure the border, yes, absolutely. But to fight Ebola, if you want to fight Ebola, you've got to talk about allocation of resources, and that means money. Then you've got to focus, which we are, focus on what is happening in West Africa and focus on keeping individuals who even potentially have it out of the United States. And that is tension of resources to people getting on airlines.
I like the idea of going to the sources of it, though, Charlie. Like this week, they talked about, you know, checking, starting on Monday, I guess, checking people at certain airports once they've gotten here.
Yeah, I think, I don't think that's going to work because this has a long incubation period. I mean, listen, I spoke with some doctors about this. What they take out the nice things they say on TV, don't worry about it. What they tell you is that it is not outside the range of possibilities that somebody can be weaponized with Ebola and come across the border. That is, I said this weeks ago. I still believe it. And you know, and here's the thing. They say you can't catch it. It's hard to catch. It's not that hard to catch. It's not airborne, but you know, how did that nurse in Spain get it? And by the way,
New York City subway, somebody who has it sneezes into their hand, you touch the rail and they just touch you, you have a cut on your hand and you touch your eye, boom.
That's why we have to do 2 things. Seal the border, stop flights from that part of Africa immediately.
All right, Adam, listen, securing the border, trying to stop this from coming in, particularly from this, you know, listen, we know how porous our border is. This is another reason maybe to have a greater sense of urgency.
So I think what the general said was completely prudent. It's a doomsday, it's a sort of I was going to say doomsday scenario. It's a negative scenario, but it's an important one we need to consider. I think our conversation and the tone that we're taking in the conversation is trivializing the difficulty of securing the border. I mean, it's a thousands of miles long border. We have walls. We have,
Is it possible to do, though, Adam? Can the greatest country in the world do all these things that you are hinting are so hard to do?
I mean, Charles, the short answer is no, and the long answer is, of course, we keep trying. Let me finish. We put a man, hold on, let me finish. We put a man on the moon,
but we can't secure the border.
We can't cure the common cold. This is more
we
like that.
We do have remedies for the common cold. I'm just saying there is no cure for it.
Yes, remedies.
We have remedies, including chicken soup.
Very analogous, Charlie. We do our best.
We have remedies, including chicken soup. We don't try to have remedies.
Let Adam finish his point. Go ahead, Adam.
I mean, of course we try. That's absurd. We have, as I said, we have armed forces on the border. I wasn't finished. We have multiple forces. We have walls. We complain about it and talk about it all the time. Should we try harder? Yes, we should try harder.
Hey, Ben, let's go back to you on this thing. I mean, I don't think anyone in this country thinks it's impossible to take greater measures to secure the border. I mean, that is not a pipe dream, is it?
Well, the amount of money we spend on border security is almost infinitesimally small. Right. Of course we can do more. It may not be possible to stop every single person from coming across, but to have the borders as porous as we do, where thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands come across, clearly that can be helped. It's a question of allocating money. It's not a trivial matter. Of course, Adam is completely correct about that. But if we are really serious about having a nation, which we are, let's have borders.
Gary Kay, on that notion of being serious, taking action before it becomes an emergency. Precautionary things, first thing you learn in security is you have to set up the precautionary stuff first. Why would we have to wait? Why do we have to wait for a worst-case scenario to develop in South America where a lot of people know they have Ebola and they're trying to get to our medical sources?
Well, unfortunately, our government is reactionary and not proactive at this point in time. Look, just 3 weeks ago, our president said Ebola would not hit this country, and now it's here. So I'm a big believer of you never know. And again, you err on the side of caution. And in a government that spends $3.5 trillion a year, and on top of that runs $500 to $1 trillion in deficits, they have the money to do something about it. There's too much talking and not enough action.
Well, the amount of money that we spend on U.S. research on infectious diseases, President Bush ramped it up because of the threat of bioterrorism, which is exactly what Charlie is talking about, and it's been in decline because of that, because we turn to other things. It's in the moment. And by the way, on the border, the Department of Homeland Security is planning to create a Southern Border Command to manage the resources of all the
Why is it, Charlie, that though every time some politician talks about building a wall along the border, people say they're mean-spirited, they're evil, it's racist. What the heck is this all about?
Listen, there's a huge degree of political correctness when it comes to protecting the border, and and the bottom line is this: that we don't protect it enough. And could you imagine if one of those kids, those Central American kids, had Ebola and came here and was housed here in the conditions they were housed in? Could you imagine what would happen then? This is a serious problem. Political correctness prevents us from putting the military on the border.
Last word to Adam. I'm sorry, last word to Adam.
I think Gary made a good point. Gary made a good point. Our government has been too reactive. So now when we were reacting is by trying to fight this in West Africa. And the general of our Southern Command is being proactive. He's saying we need to think about this scenario. Good for him.
He's thinking out loud. I don't know if we're being proactive. Okay, Gary, I lied. Get your word in.
Look, my main point is the people in Washington say everything's A-OK. The people in the states that have the borders are saying we need the help and nothing's being done.
All right, guys, let's leave it there. Hey, unions fired up and firing back against the left, and it could have some Democratic lawmakers left out in November.
Are you tired of it?